about her. They will evaluate her just as one would evaluate a diamond, measuring imperfections against full potential. The subjective assessment will determine whether or not Georgia graduates.
Are you ready? Or do you feel a bit afraid?
My dharma brings me here, and my dharma protects me. There is nothing to fear.
So, tell me, what is faster than your mind?
My desire.
So, who will be stronger, you or the man in your life?
Both are halves of a whole. A man without a woman is still. A woman without a man is an aimless meteor.
Do you believe in reincarnation? And do you believe that you must pay for your misdeeds by severe penance in this life?
I believe in reincarnation, and I believe in karma. But irrespective of my starting handicap, I also believe that life is a precious gift where everyone has an equal chance to achieve complete fulfillment and experience divinity.
Life is full of surprises. What does one do if life leaves you with nothing? Not even hope, no chance of achieving any fulfillment, or of experiencing divinity.
If life leaves you with nothing, then you have nothing left to lose and everything to gain. So be the boldest that you can be, and do your highest dharma.
Can a motherless daughter such as you connect with the world and have a normal relationship with society?
Just because I have lost my mother does not mean that I have lost my attachment to her, or that she won't be here to help guide me.
So tell me then, what do you see?
I see the macrocosm whole in the microcosm self. I see the microcosm in the macrocosm. We are all part of one reality, one universe.
Jai Princess Kota! Princess Kota ki Jai! Jai Princess Kota! Princess Kota ki Jai! Jai Princess Kota! Princess Kota ki Jai!
And it's my wedding soon. Tonight is the Mendia, and my house is just buzzing with guests. You know how it is. Children running around, playing games, relatives I haven't seen in ages. My house is just bedecked with the most sweet-smelling flowers, and you just smell the wonderful food being prepared in the kitchen. I have such fond memories of me and my brothers and sisters sneaking into the kitchen, stealing the food, then taking it out to the garden where we would sit and eat under the 100-year-old chinar tree. This room, the garden, the house, it all holds fond memories. I'm going to miss it. But I am still excited. My husband's home will be my new home. His family, my family. New memories shall be made. New beginnings. Beautiful dreams are just dancing on my eyes. I'm so excited.
Please pack your bags. You have to leave. You must leave immediately. It's not safe here anymore.
What do you mean we have to leave? We're waiting for Maharaj, the groom. You'll be here soon.
I mean, you have to leave now.
What nonsense. It's my daughter's wedding. There's so many people in the house, so many guests.
Kaul Sahib, there won't be any wedding. There won't be anything. Just pack your bags and leave. Save your family. Please, I beg of you. Today I'm leaving, but I will return for my people, for my land, for Kashmiri. My progeny will return and will reclaim what has been stolen from us today. Asi us, the Asi asa. We were and we will be. We will return.
story of Kashmiri Pandits is a story of a painful past. A story of exile, a story of betrayal. It's a story of deep wounds, still carrying the pain of memories. A story of festering wounds, where the Kashmiri Pandits have been ignored by their own country. While the issue of the partition is constantly revisited, the issue of Kashmiri Pandits never got that thrust. Years have passed. An entire generation has been disconnected, removed from their roots, and yet justice is nowhere in sight. The state of Jammu and Kashmir has been bifurcated, and yet the Kashmiri Pandits remain in eager anticipation for some sign of the delivery of justice, justice that has been much delayed.
Oh, Mommy, I had no idea that you had suffered. I would never know that my family has traveled so much.
We haven't just travelled, Peter. We were forced out, and we never returned. Our journey, our sacrifice, remains to be acknowledged. We must always remember our exile. We must always remember the stories of our resilience. Lakshmi Auntie has asked you and your friends to do a project. Why don't we see what they have to show us?
Namaskar, Michinao Advi Kaul.
Namaskar, Mechanal Baby Kaul, and we're Team Kaul Fleet. So, what does the word Kashmir convey to me? It's the place where both of our parents come from. We keep hearing about its rich culture, its food, its way of life, and I always used to wonder why we never visited this place. In fact, I've never seen the birthplace of both my parents. This would have been fine if this place was not very close to where both sets of my grandparents currently live. Whenever I questioned this, I was told simply that it was unsafe for us Kashmiri Hindus.
We heard the full story only a short while ago when we started with our questionnaire for this project. We were really excited about the project, just like Nanika. It began with lots of happy childhood memories of my parents, their friends, families, the schools they went to, and how much fun they had growing up in such a beautiful place. Bob was born in Anantnag and lived there with his parents and 3 siblings. But he went to Happy Home School in Anantnag, where all the teachers were highly experienced and learned Kashmiri Pandits. School was fun, and Baba used to walk to school just like me. And just like me, Baba loved sports as well, and his favourite sport was cricket. But mine is football. Baba said he used to spend hours playing cricket in the stadium in Anantnag. He is still very passionate about cricket and claims to be a good batsman. Whenever we go and watch him play, he never scores more than 5 runs.
Mama was born in Shopian and lived there with her family. She went to a school with a mix of Hindu and Muslim teachers and children, which she has very fond memories of. The school would often take them for small picnics to the beautiful forests and meadows like Sidal and Aharbal waterfall. Her favourite place to visit was Kabul Mochin Temple, an ancient place of pilgrimage for both Hindus and Sikhs. They continued with a few more anecdotes and memories, but we were both shocked when we found out why they had to leave such a lovely place. The fact is, they were forced out of their homeland by the terrorists and jihadis, which form part of the majority community in Kashmir. It happened 30 years ago, when Bob was around 15. There were violent processions everywhere for scaremongering the minority Hindus. Curfews were imposed in the city frequently, and hearing gunshots in the neighbourhood became a daily occurrence. Tear gas shells would end up in people's courtyards, including Baba's. It was especially scary for the children, who didn't necessarily understand what was going on around them. Things started getting worse when they noticed regular gatherings of people, including men with weapons, openly threatening to kill the Hindus. A wave of threat and terror spread across the entire Hindu population, which got intensified every day with the news of selective killings. The streets started becoming quieter as the neighbours were fleeing in the middle of the night without informing anyone.
Even though Baba's parents hoped and prayed that things would get to normal, as they never wanted to leave the home that they had grown up in. It wasn't an easy task. I guess they knew in their hearts that they needed to leave in order to save their family. After a few failed attempts, they were finally successful. When they passed the mountains that surrounded Kashmir, they all breathed a sigh of relief. They were finally safe at last.
The story of exodus of Mama's family is not very different to Baba's. They had gone to spend the winter school holidays with our granddad, who was in Handawada at the time. One day, when they were all enjoying themselves, suddenly hundreds and thousands of people, including jihadis with guns, started pouring in from neighbouring villages and forming a massive violent procession into the town, setting many government buildings on fire. People got killed as they clashed with the armed security forces, and gunshots and blasts could be heard from miles. A wave of panic ran through the whole household, and all the doors and windows were sealed shut. They felt most vulnerable at that time, and saving the lives of the kids was the only thing on their mind. Can you believe my Marcy was only 2 years old at that time? With the help of another resident, they fled in his car in the early hours of the morning and headed towards their home in Shopian, hoping that they would be safe there. The journey was exhausting and frightening, as they got stopped many times along the way by lots of angry mobs, and they had to dodge lots of people with fake stories and excuses. But finally, with the help of security forces, they managed to reach to safety. But not for long. The problem didn't stop there. Around 2 months later, it was Herath time, and the whole village was busy celebrating the festival, when suddenly the situation in Shopian started taking a similar turn as the one in Handawada. This time they didn't wait much, and the whole family decided to leave immediately.
Grandad's uncle, who lived in Jammu, welcomed all his relatives fleeing Kashmir into a small and humble home with open arms, provided food and shelter to them. In fact, the whole community helped each other during the most difficult times.
Neither Mama nor Baba went back to Kashmir after that. Their childhood suffered a brutal blow, and it was irreparable. The lives of most of the kids in the community suffered due to the lack of resources, but most of all the adults, who struggled to make ends meet. Both Mama and Baba went to the same makeshift camp school in Jammu, specifically for Kashmiri migrant children. The conditions were harsh. Children were studying in the scorching heat of 40 degrees, but they seemed to have very good memories of the friends and teachers who treated them as family and gave them the best education.
Baba went to Trichy for his engineering degree, and Mama went to Pune for her business management studies. They got married in Jammu, where Boo was born, and soon after that, they moved to London, where I was born. In the UK so far, we have lived in Isleworth, Manchester, and now finally, in the best part of the UK, Fleet.
This is our journey from Kashmir to Fleet, and we're glad to have done this exercise, or we would not have come to know about the most important part of our parents' lives. We now feel proud of our parents and grandparents for being so brave. We hope that there is some light at the end of the tunnel and an end to their suffering and silence. Thank you. We now like to...
Hi, I'm Rohan. And I'm Isha. We were born in England in Surrey. We lived in Hatfield with my mum and lived in Bagshot with my dad. We are going to tell you about my mum's journey. My ancestors on my mum's side came from Korea more than 100 years ago. In those days, families used to live together, grandparents, aunts, uncles and cousins. When my great-grandfather was a little boy, the family moved to a house in Bulbulanka, which was located by a canal in Mir in Kashmiri. The family lived there for a long time until it grew again, and then my great-grandfather moved his family to Karanagar, and that is where my mum was born. They lived there until the family built a big home in Rana, and that is where my mum spent her childhood. My mum had a little red bike and she spent all her time on it. She had a room for all her dolls and toys. She went to school on a school bus and played with her friends after school. It was a happy childhood. In March 1990, due to the conditions worsening in Kashmir and widespread terrorism, my mum, her family, friends and relatives, in fact, the entire Kashmiri Hindu community were forced to leave their homes. They had to leave all of their belongings, and my mum and Shri Mama had to leave all their toys and were asked to take their school books in their bag. My family had no choice but to leave or get killed. No one knew where they were going.
They decided to go to Jammu, as that was perceived to be safe. Some people had family there, so they went there. My mum's family went to a distant cousin's home and lived there for a couple of days, as they had nowhere else to go. As the house they were in was already full of other refugees, the family were forced to separate. My mum and her little brother had to leave their grandparents elsewhere, and they, along with Nani and Nana, kept moving around and living with various relatives. The entire family had nowhere to go and no belongings except what they could carry. Eventually, my Nana and Nani managed to find a small room where they lived with my Mama and Mum. It was a small room, and Nani cooked all the meals on the floor in the corner of the room. They spent just over a year there until Nana and Nani had to leave for Gujarat for work. My Mama and Mum lived with various relatives, including grandparents, Marcies, aunts, and uncles. Eventually, my Mama, as he was very little, went to live with Nani and Nana in Gujarat. Mum continued living with relatives and continued to live in Jammu for another year. She had to keep living there so that she could go to school in Jammu. Eventually, it was decided that Mum would join Nana and Nani in Gujarat. My mum lived in Ahmedabad while she finished her studies. In Ahmedabad, they moved 3 times until they found a place to call home. Mum lived in Mumbai later and then moved to England after getting married. For over 20 years now, she has lived in England and calls it home, but she has always longed for Kashmir, her ancestral home, a home she has not seen in 30 years. She is still waiting to return to the home she left, a place we have only heard about and never seen. Has anyone actually done anything to help the Kashmiri Pandits claim back their homeland? Has everyone forgotten, or did no one ever find out? These are only 2 questions that have come from a list of many. We hope to visit one day, but do not know when that day will be. Thank you. Now I'm going to pass it on to Sheen.
Namaskar, my name is Sheen, and when I got this project, I was very excited to find out about my mum and dad's childhoods. As you can see on this very geographically accurate map, my dad was born in Kerala and grew up in different parts of Delhi. I loved hearing the stories of how he met my mum, got married, had me, and then moved to England. And he showed me some of his childhood photos. It was lovely to see how adorable he was. Then I asked my mum if she had any photos. She said no. I was confused. I mean, I'm sure they had cameras in that day. And then she told me that all of the pictures were lost when her family had to move. And thus she told me this story of her journey. It's a bit like some of the others that you've heard today, and listening to her stories, I've created a short narrative that I'd like to share today. It was yet another busy day at school when a science lesson got interrupted. The class was just about to have a heated discussion about chromosomes when the principal walked in. How strange, they all thought. It all made sense now. They all did the usual new children drill and went back to their work. But there was one girl in the class who had a lot more on her mind after that incident. The 3 kids looked a bit grim, but otherwise were just like her. Over the next few days, Suman would learn that they were pretty smart actually. Smarter. A few months back, when her grandparents and uncles and aunts showed up without notice at their home, Suman and her sisters actually loved it. They were thrilled to see their grandparents, whom they only saw during the summer holidays. Every year, they had moved to Jammu, and their father had booked them a bus to Srinagar on the very second day of the summer holidays, along with their mother. And they loved their holidays at their grandparents, and spent the whole 2 months visiting their extended family, with picnics at beautiful gardens, and visiting their father's village, with the house surrounded by apple orchards, walnut trees, and beautiful brooks. It was always 2 months of bliss and love with their family and roots. But that was not going to happen again. She had heard conversations around the house and streets that all the people who she had seen crowing the streets and the whole town were here to stay. They were forced to leave their homes. No one told her or her sisters the whole truth, but no one was happy anymore in the house or in the town. As if having 5 extra family members squashed up in the tiny 2-bed house was not enough, now she had to put up with these kids at school who were way ahead of her in all of the lessons. Suman was used to holding the top of the class position, but these new kids were tough competition. They were very smart. Suman had to put in extra effort to stay on top, but it was hard. It was good that a lot of the other kids who had come between the term had left. They looked uber cool and spoke in perfect English, and had a sophistication of a sort. That made Suman and her friends feel like country bumpkins. She decided that she did not like them. She kept to her group, and the new kids did not complain about being excluded in the circles of friends, nor did they show any interest in any of them. This annoyed Suman even more. Things were fast changing around them. There was chaos, but it was measured. Nothing was too obvious, other than the swarms of people flooding the town and whispers around. Even the way people looked at them had changed. Her father had always garnered a lot of his respect from the locals. They would call him Pandit Ji. But now there was name-calling, and no one called out to her father without respect. It was as if the special respect of being the handful of Kashmiris in the town was taken from them. Now there were Pandit Jis everywhere. Then one day, her father took them to Jammu to meet some relatives who had gone to Jammu after leaving their homes in Kashmir. She was going to meet one of her favourite cousins and his family. To her shock, they were not going to a house. They went to a stadium full of tents and people. This was real chaos compared to what Suman had seen in her small town. There were wailing women, small kids in the small tents. A whole family of 4 was squashed in a small tent. The conditions inside horrified her. They had few utensils and no bags. The cousins had an embarrassed look on their faces, and they seemed so helpless. Auntie, who had fed her with warm rice flour rotis and sheer chai, looked like she had not had a drink of water in days. Her uncle was not the same happy, cheerful person who had always joked with her. In fact, he did not talk at all. He was silent and stiff, like a statue, but breathing. It was already beginning to get hotter in Jammu, and the people in the tents did not know how to handle the heat. It was not the sight Suman was prepared to see. Suman just wanted to get out of there and block all of this from her memory. This was just a nightmare, and she will wake up to things being normal again. But the nightmare had just begun. The horrifying stories that were real began to flood from everywhere. The newspapers had stories of people dying of scorpion and snake bites and heat. After getting back to school the next day, Suman talked to her friends and told them what she had seen, and they approached the new kids in class and made friends with them. Now, 30 years on, they are all still friends, more like family, and the adversity that had devastated them and their families became their strength and has brought them closer than ever. Thank you.
from Renawari to Mukti camp in Jammu, to Maharashtra Engineering College on a migrant quota, to an IT job in Delhi, meeting your dad, getting married, moving to Nottingham, having you, moving to London, buying this house. It's been a long, long journey, Nanika.
But Mummy, we could have stayed on board. Why didn't Nani fight? Why did we just leave? But why do people call us weak and that we ran away? Why are we accused of fighting? Were we not brave enough? Is it true that Kashmiri Pandits were cowards?
We left because we had no choice but to leave. It takes courage to save the lives of those you love. It takes a lot of pain to leave everything you have overnight and walk away from your life. There was a war outside and a battle outside, inside. Today, we have a special guest all the way from Delhi, Kashmiri Panditji. Maybe we can ask him some questions. Maybe we can ask him, why did we not fight? Did we ever try to go back? Can we go back? Perhaps he may have an answer to your question, son.
Rana, Kaul, Rohan, Sana Chair, Tashi Rana, Ashwarya Rana.
Something flowering.
And the director, Aarushi, Anupama Hanu on the sound, Sindhu Kaul, Sindhu Kaul on the visuals, Sunita Lawari backstage. And Lakshmi. Thank you. Thank you. And as they exit the stage, I request Sushilji to come and join us. Thank you very much for being wonderful audience. Please, Sushilji, would you